Second. Okay, we are live. Hey everybody, it's Tori Townley with the Serve Brew. If you are a first-time tune-inner or whatever you want to call it, this is just the time where we take our afternoon coffee break. I'm repping Refuge Church in Huntsville today with my coffee. And we interview some different pastors, outreach leaders, and just kind of hang out. So basically, people get to be a fly on the wall for a little coffee date and talk about how to change the world. It's pretty fun. So today I have two amazing pastors from Ohio, which is pretty cool. We have Pastor Chris VanBuskirk from Centerpoint Church in Chillicothe, Ohio. And then we have Pastor Chad Fisher of Rock City Church in Columbus. And they also just started a Dream Center, which is pretty rocking. So, hey guys, how's it going?
Good.
Awesome. Just real quick before we jump into our conversation, I wanted to remind everybody, if you have not signed up for Serve Day, be sure to do so. It's going to be on July 16th of this year. So go to serveday16.com and you can register. You can get some ideas, practical guides on how to get started if you've never done it before. If you've not signed up yet, be sure to say or use the code lunch on us in the comment section. And you could be entered to win a private outreach coaching session with Pastor Dino and our team, which is pretty cool. We got up to 112 churches today.
Wow.
So it's pretty incredible. We have one in Australia, two in Canada, one in, I think we have Sudan, Pakistan, all kinds of places. So it's getting pretty exciting. It's fun to watch. So anyway, that's that. I'm going to go ahead and jump in. So Pastor Chris, I was going to start introducing you. Me and Dad got to visit Centerpoint a couple months ago and hang out with you guys. And seriously, I was just blown away by the culture that you guys have. And I'm going to harp on that a little bit more. But you guys seriously take outreach, and it's not just a department in the church, it's a culture. And I wrote a blog about it. I think you guys have seen it, but that's featured on the Serve Day site. So whoever's watching, be sure to go back and read that, because their church is incredible. And then Pastor Chad, I got to meet your team a couple weeks ago at the art conference, and seriously, I've heard incredible stuff about y'all's church and your Dream Center, but then getting to see your team and just the life that you guys are surrounded by. I meet your amazing wife. She's the coolest pastor's wife, other than Miss Kristen, which is also, she's pretty great too. They're both incredible women. But just to see, I think you guys together, me and my dad were talking today about how just you guys are young, and you've done something incredible to build an atmosphere of outreach in your church, whether it's outside of the walls or inside the walls. It's just a culture that's there, and there's something unique about that. So I have lots of questions, but I wanted to just start off, if you guys can each kind of give me a snapshot of your vision for the church as a whole and how outreach is incorporated into that, and how you built an outreach culture into the lives of the people, and what's the magic, what makes your church unique in that outreach life. So Pastor Chris, I'll start with you if you want to go, and then Pastor Chad, you can jump in too.
Yeah, we launched Centerpoint in 2009, so right after the economy kind of tanked in 2008. And when we started the church, I guess everybody, I'm sure you guys shared the vision, every church, I think, starting out wants to be outwardly focused. But how do you do that? That's the hard part. How do you do that? And so we started by just really looking at the practical needs in our city. We said, okay, economy just tanked. Chillicothe is about an hour south of Columbus. It's a blue collar town with some white collar jobs. And so a lot of people just immediately started by cutting things they would do with their families. So for instance, summer vacations, things they would normally do in the summer, they just stopped doing them. And so we kind of leaned into that as a church. And the week before we launched and had our first service, we did an event called Crazy Love Family Day. And the whole idea was that we wanted to give people in our city an event with no strings attached, that was done so well that when they left, they felt like they should have paid money for it, and they didn't have to pay a dime for it. And so we started our church with that philosophy, and it blew up. It really grew. We did it for 5 years. Wow. And every single year that we did it, we were leveraging that event to create a culture of serving in our church. And so with our people, we would use that event as an on-ramp and encouraging them, like, look at the needs in our city. We can meet these things practically, and we would use that event. And then throughout the rest of the year, we would leverage it into just continually creating serving opportunities. How we've done that has always been a little different. But for us, it was just starting at square one and saying, what are the needs in our city? And how can we as a church just start somewhere really basic and meet that needs? And so really, for the last 6 years, that's what we've been trying to do, is just continually reassess how can we meet the needs in our city.
Wow. That's amazing. I love that you said that it started with an event, but that was just a catalyst to build the culture.
Absolutely.
And that's the heart of Serve Day too, is it's not just this event that we're trying to push people to. It's, no, this is a catalyst. Like, get something going, be with a bunch of people, feel the hype of it. And then I also love that you guys took a pulse of your community. Like, it's not, let me just read the handbook. I have to get out there and explore where I'm at. I have to know the needs of my city. And meeting with Pastor Wes, I know he's helping with the outreach there. And just to hear how he studied the community with you guys and was like looking at the prisons and looking at the schools and looking at the families, and genius that you're like, our town can't afford vacations anymore, so let's give them a staycation. That is like such a freaking cool idea. I love that. So then Dad and I, obviously, like, we got to go visit you guys and talk about outreach, and kind of you guys were at this point of, we have this event, and then how do we leverage that and continue it? So since then, I know Crazy Love has grown a lot.
Yeah.
So what is it looking like now? I think you guys are I think y'all were focusing a little bit more on small groups too, and letting them kind of have a little bit more ownership in some of that stuff. So can you tell me a little bit about what that looks like?
Yeah,
now?
absolutely. I'd love to.
Okay, cool.
So just when you feel like you figure something out, you start to reassess it, and you're like, no, we haven't figured that out. And for us, one of our values has always been, we want to come and see on Sunday so we can go and do on Monday. It's like, and it's really, it embraces the whole ARC model that Billy Hornsby talked about with the whole attractional church. It's come and see so you can go and do. And so as we've grown, our challenge has been, how do we grow larger and smaller at the same time? Like, we add numerically on Sunday, but we want to create pockets of community where people can do life together. So about a year ago, as we were looking at outreach the way we had done it, we had stopped doing Crazy Love Family Day. We felt like that event ran its course in time. People really scratched their heads when we did that, because we stopped it right after an event where we had almost 2,500 people come to this event. And we stopped after that. We felt like there were other ways that we could take those dollars and invest them into more practical needs in the community than we were already doing. And so what we did basically for a year was we just put out constant service opportunities to the church, and anybody who wanted to join could be a part of that. Then we started to rethink how to do that. And what it ultimately led us to was this idea that we felt like we could do almost 90% of our outreach through small groups. And essentially, the small groups fit our model of what we want to see happen with outreach anyway, where in different pockets of the community and around the city, people that are in those communities, that know those communities the best, can do the most effective work in there. So instead of sitting behind in a creative team meeting with 10 other people that may or may not have a geographical and relational connection to a part of our city, we started asking the question, what if we empowered the leaders in the communities of people we already have in those areas of our city to just go do outreach and just be the hands and feet of Jesus and take Crazy Love all over the city in a more intentional way? So that's what we did. We helped jumpstart that by putting our money where our mouth was and actually giving those groups each a budget during the course of the year and saying part of our outreach dollars are going right here, and then empowering them to say, how are you going to best serve your community as a group this year? And it's been phenomenal. We're a little less than a year into that, and it's just been phenomenal to watch what the groups have come up with, and humbling as a leader, because quite frankly, the stuff they're coming up with would have never happened in a creative team meeting with people that were disconnected from those communities and situations.
So amazing. I love that too, because, I can hear myself. Sorry. I love it because it like I always talk about this, it takes the pressure off of our team. Like, yes, we can put all of our effort in, and that's awesome. But when you give people a chance to express themselves, it's like our wheels can spin so much, but the possibilities are endless of what's in the hearts of our people. And so to give them a chance to have a voice, it's just beautiful. You just like never know where God's going to take it. I love that. And I love that you guys are focused on building people rather than ministry. And I think that that's a really important thing. It's not so much about being the best leaders of church. It's about being a servant to the people. I think that's what you guys do. So Pastor Todd, I want to hop to you for a second and just hear a little bit about y'all's church and how you built Rock City. I know it's one of the fastest growing churches in America, which is kind of cool. Yeah. And I watched the video on your website today, The Church That I See. And that was so cool. You had like spoken word action. I was like, dang, the brother can rap. That's awesome.
Not even close.
So cool. But really, you had some amazing things. And I was like, if that's what the church looks like, I want to be part of that.
Right.
And I really believe, like, even though I haven't been to Rock City, I can tell just by meeting you guys that that is the picture that God's painting through you. So tell me a little bit about the essence of your church and the atmosphere that you guys are building and how that's expressed within and without the church on Sundays and throughout the week.
Well, first, we're two Ohio boys, and the heartbeat of this nation is Ohio. Yeah. I think the heartbeat of the church is compassion and outreach. And so for me, I grew up in the church, and growing up in the church, you get to sometimes see the good and the great, but you also have an opportunity sometimes, unfortunately, to see the bad and the ugly. Yeah. And so for me, when I felt like the Lord was calling my family and I to plant a church and move to a city we'd never lived in before, to do something that we'd never done before. And before we met ARC, we really didn't know anybody that had started churches. And so it just really started with this desire to be the church that we see modeled in the New Testament, and to be a church that is relentlessly focused on reaching the lost and engaging the poor and the restless and the hurting. And so for us, it just compassion and outreach, serving was a part of our culture from the very, very start. So we talked about it with our launch team. We modeled it with our launch team. I remember we had like $1,200 in the bank, maybe 100 less or 100 more. Our launch team was probably 15 to 18 people. And most of the people on our launch team at the time were young, nobody had real jobs. And so we were, offerings were always quite smaller than we had hoped. And there was a family in our city who their child was waiting for the bus and got hit by a car as the kid was waiting for the bus and died. And it was a family with multiple kids. And we were having a launch team meeting, talking about being the church that we felt Jesus was calling us to be. And I just remember I couldn't shake the story, and it was all over the news. And this was a local family. And so I said to our team, I said, we have like $1,200 in the bank, and I don't think that's going to launch a church. So the success or failure of Rock City is not dependent on this money. I said, so what if we, use that to send this family on a vacation, just someplace within driving distance, but just to be a blessing. They have all these kids. And I think, that was a defining moment. And I can think of a time even before we started the church too, where we hadn't even moved to our city yet. But a friend of mine and we were looking at the money we had in the bank. It was very, very little. And it was right when the earthquake hit in Haiti. And again, we looked at the money and we thought, well, this isn't going to make or break the success or failure of the church. There's a need. And so we're either going to model that. When you see a need, you're either going to meet it, or you're going to see a need and you're going to avoid it, or you're going to just ignore it. And so we said, let's buy plane tickets and fly to Haiti and serve. And so really, I think looking back, even before we ever had a public worship experience, we were putting our money where our mouth was. We were given opportunities by God to see an opportunity, to see a need that we could meet. And if we had the means to meet it, we would do so. And so I think talking about it through the early phase, launching the church, and from day one, establishing a huge chunk of our budget to go beyond our walls. So our goal has always been 20%. And in the first 5 years, we've actually averaged closer to 33% of our whole operating budget is our Beyond Our Walls budget. And so, again, it's like, put your money where your mouth is. Just be the church. And so we looked for simple things that we could do. But our motto really is, when you see something, when you see an opportunity to serve, you have a choice. You're either going to serve or you're not. And so for us, I think it's just been continual steps of faithfulness, along the way. And as our church has grown, the amazing thing is the larger church grows, the more your influence grows, the more the finances hopefully are growing with your church. And so the influence, the financial, the number of volunteers that we can now send out today is just exponentially greater than the number of volunteers that we could send out day one. But I think that the deal is we've been sending them out from day one. We've been going out. Jesus has sent us into our city to make a difference in our city and around the world. So we've modeled it, we live it, and there's lots of practical things too that I think we're able to do as a church. One thing we started just a few months in was a program called One for One. And it was a simple way. When we were just a few hundred people as a church, we said, look, for every person that walks through our doors every weekend, if you can buy a pair of Tom's shoes and give a pair, in the process, then we said, why not the church? For every person who walks through our doors every weekend, what if we set aside $1 to meet a local or global need? And so we called it One for One. Early on, it was a few hundred people showing up every weekend. And so 1 week's worth of One for One maybe meant in the early days a couple $100 in groceries for a single mom, or maybe in the early days you could save up a whole month's worth of One for One, and you could do a $1,000 or $1,200 give to a local organization. And as the church has grown, now it's thousands of dollars a weekend, and sometimes we'll save One for One for a whole month, or maybe even a 2-month span, and we're able to accomplish some significant things with partnerships with great organizations in our city. But it's just a reminder. It's like when people show up and they see, just by being here, we're actually helping this church engage the community. I think it sends a message from the start. And so for us, it's just been this continual wave of momentum and generosity. And the more we give, the more God provides, and we're able to give so much more. So that part never ends. So if I can encourage pastors who are waiting for a starting point, like waiting for your budget to be big enough, waiting for your church to have enough volunteers, you'll never have enough to start. Just start with what you have, and be faithful with what you have. And as you take those steps, I promise you can't outgive God. He's gonna come through big.
So good.
Good grief. You got me crying over here. I'm embarrassed. That's amazing. Because seriously, I think about this a lot. It's I look at some of the newer pastors who are coming on board, and it's awesome. It's a dream, but I know that for church planners, it's a struggle sometimes. There's just a lot of I keep echoing. Okay. Is it better?
The echo.
Okay, I am. Okay, I got it. But it's a struggle to plant a church, and just to keep people coming on a Sunday is hard, and to keep the walls up and to do the portable setup for so many and all this stuff. And it's most people have a heart for outreach, but sometimes it never gets expressed because they're always trying to hit the next benchmark or the next thing. And so just to hear, it's so refreshing to hear that you were you know what, $1,200 in the bank, most people would be no, that is all we have to wait. Right. And just to hear that you were no, we're going to extravagantly give, and that's what your church is built upon. Right. And that is why you are one of the fastest growing churches in the country, is because God trusts you that. Yeah. It was just so refreshing, and I really hope that whoever watches this just takes that to heart. It is worth every second. And just think about the Good Samaritan story. That's what it is. There's never a right time. The Good Samaritan, he was busy. He was on his way to do something, but the magic happens along the way, not at the destination. So thank you for that. I did not know that story, and I'm seriously, I'm about to have to get tissue.
I think you have to experience that too. I think, some people have the gift of giving, where it's just you're wired to think differently. It's a spiritual gift, right? But we can all give. And so I think, when you can find people with that spiritual gift of giving, and as a pastor, if you can learn to tell the stories of how the church is making a difference. A lot of times we think we're bragging. It's not bragging. You're letting the church know and see, just by showing up, just by being faithful, this is what was accomplished this week through the generosity and the faithfulness of his people. And I think for me, it's a joy to see a family. If we can bless a family and make a difference in with one family, or we can sponsor, 100 pastors overseas, or, whatever it is, whether it's small or great, it's like you hear the story, you get to be a part of making that story better. And we cry all the time. And so I think if you're not, you'll know that you're generous when you're crying all the time, because it's like we just get these opportunities to serve his kingdom and make a difference. And there's really nothing better than that. And God always comes through. So every need that you have as a church, he will come through for those needs. But our job is to just be faithful. And when we see that opportunity, we as the church have to seize them.
Wow. That's beautiful. Yes, I so agree. Like, telling stories is amazing, and telling people, like, just celebrating what they were a part of. Like, I think Pastor Dino is one of the greatest people at doing that. He's always like, we tell stories. We thank people for what they were a part of. And if you weren't part of the story, you're like, holy crud, I have to be part of that. So next time, it's a contagious thing. So yeah, I so wholeheartedly agree with you on that. It's beautiful. And I love that 1-for-1 idea. That is really, really cool. I'm going to take note of that one. Like, I've never heard that one done before. It's pretty awesome. So Pastor Chris, shift to you guys. I wanted to bring up, just from my experience at Chillicothe or at Centerpoint, something that you guys weave in intricately to what you do is, I know excellence is a big thing in the church culture, and I love that. But something John Eric Mosler, some people know him, taught me is if you sometimes think of excellence and you switch it out for thoughtfulness, it's a little bit less pressure on the performance, and it's just more about the people. It's focused on the people. So I really picked up on that in Chillicothe, is that you guys have this essence of thoughtfulness in everything that you do. So you guys put, of course, welcome baskets in our hotel room. You sent your associate pastor to pick us up at the hotel. You invited us into your home. And then on Sunday, from top to bottom, everyone was so excited to see each other. It wasn't just because we were guests from out of town that we got crazy love. I had Starbucks that morning, everything. It was crazy. But then, even in the concourses, you guys play clean but secular music to make it more welcoming for people, and I love that. We had the opener for y'all's worship is my favorite in the world. It busted out and up in here. I looked at my dad, I was like, I am moving to Chillicothe. This is amazing.
That was it wasn't every week, just to what you guys are there on a good.
Amazing.
We do like that stuff, though, Tori. We really do. And I think, part of, we put a high value on excellence. I know these guys do too. And so we think that's one of the ways we honor God, is by giving him our best. And we kind of define excellence in our culture as doing the best with what we have. And so it's not necessarily looking at a church that's running a $26 million budget, which is awesome if they are, but that's not where we're at. And so what's our level with that? What is the best that we can do? And I think for us, though, the second part, and it's really what you were getting at, relationships are central to everything that we do. I just think that's what Jesus did. I think Jesus was so focused on relationships, and it's like he taught to the thousands. He had a group of 12, and then the group of 12, he had a group of 3, and it was relationship. And so our goal is, we have 3 values for our volunteers, and it's excellence, honor, and fun. And we feel like if we're doing all 3 of those things, then not only are we giving God our best, but people are getting our best, because sometimes you can, and this is so true in serving, you can pursue excellence at the sake of having no fun, and then everybody just is beat up and they're worn down. So you got to have fun, but you also have to show people honor. And we talk all the time about honor isn't just to the person above you, it's to the person beside you, it's to the person behind you on the org chart or whatever that is. It's nothing's below anybody. And so I think when you talk about your experience, I think it's because we really do strive to practice what we preach in those areas. And so we'll have hard conversations. Somebody messes up, we're going to deal with that, but we're also going to hug it out in the end. And hopefully they know that, hey, I'm valued as a human being. And I think our goal has always been, as we have those values, that translates when we're serving our city, when we're, and it's important for us to remember, we're serving our city with the people that come in from our city every week too. That single mom who just came into a Mother's Day service this weekend and had been told at another church that they didn't want her there 2 weeks earlier because she didn't have a husband and because this was her second child out of marriage. Like, we're serving that single mom too. And if we do that with excellence, and if we show her honor, and if we have fun while we're doing it, she's going to leave and she's going to have experienced Jesus that day. And so our hope is that those three values are just a central part to what we do, and that they're the foundation to all of it is relationship. Just relationship.
Yeah. And the fact that you guys love each other, I think, makes a difference too, because like that single mom is going to see your teamwork and say, oh, I want to be part of that team too. And so it's like you guys have this cycle. It's not we serve and then I keep hearing myself. Sorry. Okay, I'm good. But I love that about you guys. I think one of my favorite moments at Chillicothe, I didn't actually get to go out on the Crazy Love stuff, so I don't have a reference to the actual outreach side of it, but I think it's all one and the same. One of my all-time favorite moments of life is we were in the second service had just started, and Rusty was like in the sound booth.
Our production coordinator, yeah.
Yes, he's amazing. He was like leading the service. And then all of a sudden, me and Dad are like mingling in the lobby. Church had just started. And all of a sudden, Rusty's like rolling up in the lobby. And we're like, aren't you like leading church? And he was like, yeah, but this is my friend. It's like his first time here. And I got word that he's here for the first time. And I just had to come and make sure he's cool. That man walked this dude to the kids section, helped him get his kids checked in and his family settled in, and like took him into the service, ushered him into the sanctuary, and like, just stopped everything he was doing, stopped the whole production just to make sure that this one family was plugged in. And I was like, if that's the way this church works, from top to bottom, I know that's how you guys work, not just on Sundays, but 24/7. I was like, this is going to go far. And that just blew my mind. I was like, where did this come from? Because I don't think I've ever seen someone leave the sound booth who's leading the service like that. It was really beautiful.
Cool. Into that story, I actually, because I remember you sharing it, I know who that guy was, and him and his wife and his son have since fully jumped in at Centerpoint. They're serving on a team that he has started leading a small group. So again, right there, it's amazing what happens when people just feel valued, man, because they don't get it from anywhere else. And if we can't, as the church, make people feel valued at all ages and stages of life, then what are we here for? I mean, what are we doing if we can't do that?
Wow. That is it. It's making people feel valued. That is what we're here for. Like I said, to build people, not ministry. So that's crazy. Wow. So Pastor Chad, I want to jump back to you for a minute. So I know that you guys have been a church since 2010, right? Yeah. 2010. 2011. Okay. But then you guys last year started a Dream Center. Is that right?
October, yes.
Okay. Oh, wow. So super, super new. So can you tell me a little bit about how you got to that point? I think some churches, like, it's kind of becoming more popular now for churches to think of doing dream centers. And I think it's not for everyone, but it's really amazing. And I'm obviously a huge fan. I call myself a dream center junkie. But like, what brought you guys to that point? And what would you recommend for pastors who are maybe looking to start a dream center? Like, what are the pros and cons? And how would you recommend someone start that journey?
Yeah, so we didn't start off to set out to start a dream center. I read Matthew Barnett's book, The Church That Never Sleeps, like 15 years ago, and it ruined me for the rest of the time that I served in ministry before starting a church, because just this whole idea that the church, like when people really have a need, is when the church is closed. At 5:05 Monday through Friday, and Saturday we're closed, but we open the doors. Office hours and on Sundays, and so the whole idea of just being a 24/7 church, a hub of hope. It was something I've carried with me for the last 15 years. So how the Dream Center happened was we started looking in our city for organizations that we could believe in and support, because our thing is like, let's not recreate the wheel. So if there's a great network, if there's a great church doing something amazing, if there's a great organization, some of the organizations we support are Christian organizations. Others, like the Homeless Families Foundation, is not a Christian organization, but they do an amazing job in our city reaching homeless kids, right? So if there's a great organization we can believe in, we're going to put money behind you. We're going to send volunteers. The church is going to wrap its arms around you and rally and support you and help make what you're doing better. So in our pursuit of ministries and organizations we could support, we found out that actually it's hard sometimes to find great organizations in your city. And when you're given a couple $100, a week or a month or whatever as a smaller church, that's one thing. But when you start to give, thousands and then tens of thousands and then, $20, $30, $40, $50,000, like that, there's got to be some strong accountability there, and you want to make sure that your dollars matter, that it's going to the best place. So one of the organizations that we found was one that a husband and his wife had been serving. They'd been leading it for 30 years in our city. They had 30 years of ministry experience to the poor in the inner city. They have 30 years of a great reputation partnering with churches across the city, and so being as faithful as they've been and seeing the work that they were doing, we started supporting them financially. And then we had an opportunity to start paying for one of their staff members to do children's ministry on the weekends. And so that was a need they had. So we started to pay for that. And then we started finding ways to, send volunteers in and serve. So it was a ministry that was here for, like I said, 30 years. And our church just really came alongside them. In the process of coming alongside them, we realized, okay, here's a husband and his wife. He's 67, she's 62. They've been doing this 30 years. No concrete succession plan in place. They'd had some opportunities, but those opportunities had fallen through over the years. And so had really been praying, Lord, what are the next 30 years going to look like? Because we've led this for 30 years. What are the next 30 years going to look like? And who do you have to take this thing? And that became us. Essentially, the pastor and I became great friends over the course of a few years of our church serving them. And one afternoon, I asked him, if he'd heard of a Dream Center. And it was an interesting story because he and his wife were actually a part of the original LA Dream Center launch 20 years ago. And in Matthew Barnett's book, he mentions, he wrote his book 15 years ago, but in his book, he writes that as he's writing this 15 years ago, new dream centers are being established in cities like San Francisco, Seattle, and Columbus. and the whole idea was 15 years ago that this ministry was going to sort of rebrand itself as a dream center. They didn't end up doing that, and they continued what they were doing. And so we came alongside of them. And did a whole sort of ministry shift and inherited them onto our team as pastors. And we've hired a brand new executive director. We've hired a volunteer coordinator. We inherited about 33,000 square feet in the heart of our city. In an amazing part of our city. It's called the Short North. So it's like you have access to millionaires and people living on the street, right on the same street. It's very innovative and creative, but also some of the most extreme poverty within a stone's throw of where this sits. And so some of the most expensive land in our city is right where we are. It's an old church connected to an armory. The armory's 110 years old. The church is 90 years old. We took those. We put $1.5 million in renovation into the facilities, and we're actually able to launch. It's a 3-story dream center on one side, and then it's a Rock City Church Short North campus on the other side. We use the Short North campus side. Our campus side is the dream center throughout the week, and on Sundays it's a Rock City service, but throughout the week it's used for the Dream Center. And it's just great. I mean, it's another opportunity for our church to share the hope that we have with the people in greatest need. It is our Dream Center. We call it a hub of hope. And what's cool is because it had been around for 30 years, we didn't start a Dream Center from scratch. We inherited a ministry that it was already serving about 50,000 meals a year out of the facilities, already doing a lot of homeless ministry, already serving kids. We're just able to now sort of do what they've always done, but on steroids. And their partnerships with local churches across the city. We have about 50 churches in our city that are actual partners with the Columbus Dream Center. And so it's just really cool that our church can help lead the way, and then also encourage and inspire and engage other churches across the city to like, I think it's going to be awesome one day when 100 churches in our city are partnered, and every single one of those churches can talk about our Dream Center. You know, every pastor in the city can stand up and say, church, look what we did through our Dream Center. And we're all using that word, our, and it's showing ownership, because it really is. It's the church coming together to share Christ. So I would say for pastors looking to start a Dream Center, I would want to know, like, okay, tell me what you're doing now with what you have. Because it's one thing to look for a building, but if you're looking for a building and you're not doing ministry yet, then you're just looking for a building. So what are you doing now with what you have? What are the organizations in your city that you're partnered with already? What are the needs in your city? So have you asked enough people, and are you integrated enough in your city that you really know the tangible needs in your city? They're going to be unique, or at least wherever your church is located. What are the greatest needs there, and what are you doing already? Because to me, a Dream Center, you can have a Dream Center not even have a building to house it in, but really a Dream Center it's just being an outreach arm for the local church. So if you've already got people engaging in your community, if you're already giving dollars to outreach and putting food on people's tables and, you know, serving kids, if you're doing that as a church, then, you know, you might be farther along when it, you know, as it relates to starting a Dream Center than you think. Because if you're doing it, it's branded as a Dream Center, you know, just utilize as many people as possible and put as much funds as possible behind it. And the Bible says, where your treasure is, there your heart will be. And so if you want people in your church to have a heart for outreach, then how much of the treasure of the church are you devoting to outreach? And if you're not devoting very much, then it's probably no wonder that very few people in your church have a heart for it. So start putting your money there, and then start telling the stories about what the money there is doing and what the people serving are accomplishing. More people are going to want to give, more people are going to want to serve, and it's fun. So for us, it's pretty new though. I mean, it's since October. It's a lot of work. It's a lot of volunteers to coordinate, but the opportunity is endless. Yeah. So, and I have a vision in our city to see Dream Centers across the city. And so I think as pastors, you know, dreaming big is a really great thing. It's like we didn't arrive when we could put something within the four walls of a building in the inner city. Like we have a place that we can work out of, but we're already looking at, you know, what other parts of our city can we launch Dream Centers in, and what other cities can we launch Dream Centers in? You know, how just as far as the Lord will lead us, let's just keep going and being faithful.
It's good.
It's beautiful. I love it because you guys, hold on, the echo. Okay. You guys didn't try to manufacture something. You just were faithful with what God put in your hands. And I think sometimes it sounds so glamorous, like, oh, we're going to start a Dream Center. I hear it all the time. Like, there's this abandoned building up the street. We're going to do it. I'm like, that's awesome. I love it. But just like you said, what are you already doing? And you don't have to have a building, or you don't have to have all this stuff. Just do something. That's like here at Highlands, we are starting to realize like maybe the building isn't the first option. We've started to do mobile trucks. So we have Dream Centers, but they're mobile Dream Centers. And so we're able to go start reaching out to the community, have a presence there, build our teams, and just take some time to explore it. There's no pressure. It's like we don't want it to just be this trendy thing. We genuinely want to make a difference. And so just to kind of like alleviate that from people is really cool, from pastors. Like if you don't have a Dream Center, you're not any less cool. What are you already doing?
And if you can dream it too, like if you can dream it, like when we were just at the art conference, and so we were in Birmingham, we saw like the trucks that the Dream Center had. They're awesome, by the way. And so we were just dreaming like how awesome would it be to like have a truck like this. And when we came back, a guy wanted to meet with our director, and he said, I've got this, you know, huge box truck sitting in my driveway that I'm not using. Do you want it? And it's like, do we want it? Like, you know, just dream it. And, you know, just have big dreams, you know, just ask the Lord for big things. And, you know, when you put those things to use, like God's just going to continue to give more, because he has a heart. God's heart breaks for our city more than ours does.
Yeah.
And so if the church is being the hands and feet of Jesus, like he's going to continue to put tools in your hands. And there's going to constantly be pep to your step, because you're going to see the difference that just, man, being filled with the Holy Spirit and faithful, just walk with him, dream big and go after it. And you're going to see the faithfulness of God. And then you're going to talk about it because you're excited about it. People are going to hear it and get excited about it. And they're going to say, how can I serve and what can I give? And because money follows ministry. And so I think if we have learned anything in 5 years, it's that you put ministry and opportunity in front of people. You don't have to always ask, hey, can you give to this specific thing? People will just start giving because money follows ministry and life change and transformation. People want to be a part of that.
Tori, I think something, can I kind of real quick, Pastor Chad said something that's so important that I think a lot of churches mess up. This whole thing started with a partnership of people already doing it. And he talked about that for a minute. Like, I think sometimes in church, we're so guilty of wanting to reinvent the wheel. And there are, whatever pastors are listening to this, there are organizations, incredible organizations, doing more in your city than you ever thought about doing by yourself. And I think we've got to partner with those organizations. We have to partner with them. And we've got in Chillicothe, and Tori, I've been there and seen the Dream Center, obviously visited with you guys and saw what you're doing right there. And there is an organization in Chillicothe called the Hope Clinic. And it's a partnership between the local hospital and a lot of churches and nonprofits that have jumped in. And it's a free health clinic. And it happens every single Monday night. It's happening tonight. They once a month do a food drive with that. And so it's called a mobile market. And the Central Ohio Food Bank right here in Columbus comes down to Chillicothe, and they need workers and volunteers just to pass out food. And they'll have bread and potatoes and all kinds of stuff. And you see all these churches trying to reinvent the wheel, and yet here's this huge need. They need people to serve, and it's right there. And so in our case, a lot of times for us, before we end up doing something new, we start with the conversation of who's already doing this that we can jump in and stand beside and help support. And I think that story is awesome, because in your case, now Rock City has this Dream Center, but it started with a partnership of saying, they're already doing this. How can we help make it better? And so I think there's a lot of pastors that we would do well to start there and just say, who can we work with to make that's already good better?
Can I give a practical something? We just figured this out not too long ago, with about a year and a half ago, because most churches, you're going to put money behind stuff like this, right? So we're gonna buy like coffee mugs, and then we're gonna tell first-time guests, fill out a card, and we're gonna give you this, which is interesting if you think about it, because like, how many times have you visited a church for the first time and you thought to yourself, now I need the shirt, or I need the coffee mug, because I'm gonna, like, my first time experience, like, I'm going to start being a spokesperson for your church. Probably few, right? I mean, some people are going to want that, but so what we decided was, it just seemed to work against our culture. Like, we're like giving you something, spending money on you, when we want to show you how to think about someone other than yourself, and we want to model generosity as a church. And so we said, okay, so what if we stop giving something to you, and what if for every first-time guest card that gets turned in every weekend, we made a $5 donation in your honor to an organization in our city. Is called the Mid-Ohio Food Bank. It's a food bank that supplies basically food to most of the food kitchens or food pantries in our town, in many towns. And what's cool is, like, this organization in particular, they have so many partnerships with like large banks and key grocery stores that on their website it says for every $1 you donate to them, they're able to turn that into $10 worth of groceries. So for us, it's like, for your first time guest, by you turning in this card today, we're going to make a $5 donation in your honor, and they're going to be able to turn this $5 donation into $50 worth of groceries for a family in need. And so, like, that card is valued at $50 worth of groceries for a struggling family in our city. We saw like a 3 to 4 times increase of guest cards every weekend when we stopped giving something to the people and actually started using that as an opportunity to model generosity. I mean, it was our admin team were very happy with the volunteers. Were very happy when the cards went from like a stack this big to like, we're doing them 3 days later, still working on them. But it was just an incredible, like a simple thing that a lot of churches will. You already probably have a budget for that. So what if you just, even for a season, just try that, like take that money and find something that's like in the Mid-Ohio Food Bank. It's not even a Christian organization, but I don't think a hungry person is going to care if it's a Christian or a non-Christian that gives them bread, right? And what was also kind of interesting to us is we were the first church, and this organization has been around for years and years and years and years. They're the most respected organization in our town, nonprofit-wise, but we were the first church to partner with them, and they just made that organization made such a big deal that, wow, this is, we've never had a church want to come alongside what we're doing. And so it just, again, the impact is exponential when you start to think a little bit outside the box and use what you're already using for one thing, just maybe you can use it for something a little better. Yeah. And we still give this stuff away. We still give these people.
Clearly.
Yeah, correct.
Oh my gosh. I love how intricate it is. Like, I feel like I'm watching Inception with you guys. Like, it is layer after layer after layer, and there is just intricate thoughtfulness.
You want us to spin a top at the end?
I don't know where I'm at.
Let it go. Let's let it go.
But really, like, I love that it's a partnership in so many levels, and people come to church searching for meaning. And so you guys just took it to a whole new level. Like, you want meaning, like, let's help you make a difference and be meaningful. And that's what's going to change me. That's what pretty much made me who I am, is because I was able to be part of something bigger than myself. And so from day one to be able to say, yeah, we're going to honor you, but we're going to help you learn and find your sweet spot. You made a difference just by coming. That is, oh my gosh, genius. You seriously just blew my mind. I wish I could, we're gonna have to do part 2 to this thing, because this is crazy. But one thing I do want to touch on, kind of jump in a little bit, you touched on the idea of partnership with other pastors in the area, and just the picture of you two sitting cheek to cheek, as you call it. That's him. It was all Chris. We know. No, there is a space, but I think that it's so cool. Last year I got to go visit. My dad helped set up the meetup. So there was 10 other pastors in the Ohio area working together. And then Pastor Chris, you've kind of taken the charge to be the meetup leader, I guess, for that area. And just to see your passion to work with other pastors, to build relationship, and then just to see you guys being friends right now. You drove, I think you said 2 hours, so that y'all could just be together today and hang out, not just because of the Serve Day Brew. I'm sure it's because you want to build relationship and drink coffee or whatever's in Pastor Chad's cup. We don't know. But
Burns going down.
But I just think that it's cool that you guys work in relationship to reach your cities. And if Pastor Chris, you can kind of talk about that, how does relationship with other pastors make a difference for you in serving the city, no matter what it looks like? Tell me the value of that.
It's going to sound cliche through the lens of ARC, but this whole don't do ministry alone thing, it's legit, man.
Yeah.
I do not understand. I truly don't understand how pastors and churches try to do things by themselves. I don't understand that. I remember the first time that Chad and I actually got together. Funny story about this. I think I've shared this with your dad maybe, but we tried this whole meetup thing before it was a meetup thing. And we had a real small group of guys get together in Columbus. And then we did one, I don't know, 2 or 3 months later. And Chad and I were the only ones that showed up. And so we went to a little Mexican restaurant and just hung out and got to know one another. And this
now there's a bromance.
Yeah, a little bit of a bromance. I like Chad. I've got a crush on him. He's got better hair than I do, obviously. I don't know how people do things alone for a couple of reasons. Number one, there are mountaintops in ministry, and they're great and they're amazing, but there's also valleys, and then there's also the climb in between the valley and the top of the mountain. And this whole thing, whether it's about serving, whether it's about giving, whether it's about dreaming, I'm inspired when I'm around this guy. I'm inspired when I'm around a table of pastors, some of which are ready to quit, Some of them who have been doing it for years, and there's just so much to learn from their experience and their wisdom. When you bring that group of people together and you get them in the same room, it's amazing how much you can learn and strengthen one another. And I am a firm believer when it comes to church that we have to remember we're playing for the team name on the front of the jersey, not the individual name on the back of the jersey. And so God's given us all like unique flavors for the way we're doing ministries in our local communities. That's great. It should be that way. But man, we're all on the same team. And if we lose sight of that, how can we expect our people to jump on board with this message of unity when we're not even unified? We would never tell our people, do life alone. So why would we tell people, why would we as pastors do ministry alone? And so I think that there's strength in numbers, and I think the whole movement of just ARC is just amazing because of the relationships that it creates and the fact that we get to strengthen and encourage one another. And it's cool because you've got big groups, everything from an ARC conference where there are literally thousands of people there to these regional one-day events where you might have a few hundred people here to meetups where we're doing a meetup here in a couple of weeks. We'll probably have maybe 15 to 20 people there. And then out of that 15 to 20 people, there will be pockets of people that really are invested with one another, that have a text relationship, that will call each other once in a while. That's great, man, because we can't do it alone. And so it's so important. And I know there are ARC guys listening to this. There are also non-ARC people. You've got to find your tribe, man. You have to find your tribe. We're better together. And it's really just us practicing what we preach, because we would never ask our people to go at it alone. We shouldn't try to do it either as pastors and leaders.
That's beautiful. Yeah, and I go back to the video that I saw from Pastor Chad about the church that I see, and it's like we have to take care of the church and make it beautiful. Like, we are God's body, and the people outside of the church are attracted to that. So if we're like not in unity, then no one's going to be attracted to that. And so I just really honor you guys for that. I look and I'm just like, I think it is so cool that y'all are just doing life together. It's rare and it's beautiful, and it's becoming less rare. And I think that's awesome, but just super honor you guys for that. I know that we only have a couple more minutes. I could talk to you guys for hours, but I won't. I just want to ask real quick, like last question. I want to touch a little bit on Serve Day. If you guys want to share real quick, like what you're thinking, what you have dreamed up for that day specifically, and then how you hope that it maybe sparks a little bit more passion in people moving forward. So Pastor Chad, let's start with you. I don't know, you might not have it planned yet, but just what are some of your ideas for that day?
Yeah, honestly, we don't have it planned yet.
Cool.
I think for us, whenever we approach an opportunity to serve, one of the questions that we ask is, how can we engage the most number of people possible? Not just serve the most number of people possible, but how can we engage the most number of people possible? And so I think that's where we start, because the more people that you can get from your church to actually experience what serving produces, not just like the end of the serve, but just what it produces in you as you serve. That joy and the heart of Christ just comes alive. So we start every serving opportunity is, how can we engage the most number of people possible? I mean, we'll make up stuff just to get more people engaged and in the game. And then we always have a goal too, like when it comes to, just like doing big things together, like whether it's the number of hours that we can serve, or whether it's a give goal, like how can we accomplish something huge together. And, if everyone chips in and does their part, like this is going to be awesome. So I don't know specifically what that day is going to look like yet. We're really close to, through the Dream Center, we're starting our Adopt a Block program in just a few weeks. And we're starting in 2 major poverty-stricken parts in our city. And so I know that's taken a lot of our focus and energy, and that's long-term, that's every week. And so I would say that's where our energy and focus is. So what we're going to actually do on Serve Day, not 100% sure, but I do look forward to participating.
That's cool. I like it because, like, I think a lot of churches feel pressure, like, come up with this huge, giant thing, and I think that's awesome. But at the same time, some people might just want to do what they regularly do and just amp it up a little bit. So, like, I think that's cool that you guys are still exploring that. So for other churches out there who are watching, like, seriously, if you just do what you normally do and just enhance it a little bit, that's great. And then I love what you said just now about, sorry, I can hear myself again. Anyway, I love that you guys have such a big passion, to make a difference. I think it's amazing. And your serve day is going to be great. I want to come. I do. Pastor Chris, what do you guys have cooking up? I know y'all are crazy love. And last year y'all's first serve day to do with us?
It was our first corporate
like, big,
yeah,
corporate.
We had done our own kind of serve day, but when you guys started promoting the nationwide thing, we jumped right on board with it.
Yeah,
because
cool.
For us, when I referenced earlier that 90% of our outreach efforts are happening through our small groups, we still try to do 2 big things every year that are just big on-ramps. And for us, every weekend, we want to create both an attractional and a relational environment. And so it's back to that come and see, go and do thing. Like, we want to create an environment that's attractional, where people don't feel intimidated to come in the doors. And when they come in the doors, they find music and a message. It's going to meet them where they're at. It's relevant to their life. But then we want the relational part. So we want to give them that next step that helps them grow in a relationship. We really are approaching Serve Day through the same lens. So with our Serve Day, we're going to have some attractional stuff. I guess some of that stuff that will create buzz and get people really excited. We're talking about a gas giveaway right now at a couple specific gas stations where we can just show up and give away free gas. That's kind of the attractional thing. And I think this goes back to something Pastor Chad said earlier that I think is so important. I think this is a real talking point. It probably always will be in the church about these things that maybe seem showy or that seem like, man, hey, we did this awesome thing. Look, if we're following Jesus in our churches, then he gets the glory for this stuff. And so even though Centerpoint's name might be attached to it or Rock City's name's attached to it, if we're pointing people back to Jesus and when we're pumping gas in the car, we're saying, why are you doing this? Because we love Jesus and we love you. That's it. There's no strings attached. I think that sends a message. And so we've got some big things like that we're tossing out, but there's also a lot of practical stuff. You guys did a Laundry Love Day thing, right, in the city?
So one of the first things.
Yeah. So we incorporated part of that, just showing up at a laundromat, taking over a laundromat. We did that last year with Serve Day. Going to do the same kind of thing again. And then some really, there's a park in our city that the city doesn't have money for. They've basically said, hey, it's just going to run down. Well, we don't think that's the answer. So we're going to go in and fix it. And we're going to go ahead and improve it. And it's in a highly drug trafficked area of our city. And we're going to go in and just show love that day. So some big things, but also a lot of really practical things that are going to happen. And our goal that day, you talked about goals. Our goal is to have 50% of our average weekend attendance. We want 50% of our people to show up and serve that day. And so I hope that happens. I hope we exceed it. But
I think you will.
Can I throw in one more thing, just to encourage pastors, if you're thinking of something, do something that you can build on.
Yeah.
Do something that you can continue to do. So this month, it blows me away to think about it. That a few years ago, we had a partnership with one local inner city school. And so we started serving the kids. We, backpacks for when school's starting, shoes when, Christmases come, but one school. And then we would go in and serve the teachers lunch, take them Amazon gift cards, do cool stuff for the teachers. That was just a few years ago. Started with one school. This month, almost every day in the month of May, we have Rock City volunteers in a different local school in our city, blessing the teachers and the administrators. Could have never even dreamt of that. Couldn't have thought of that 2 years ago, not even 12 months ago. But when you just start with one, and we started with the Laundry Love, one of the first events we did, go to a laundromat, just do people's laundry, come up with a really great way to keep it all sorted and nice and get it cleaned and love the people and give them snow cones, whatever you got to do. But, now we're in multiple, laundromats across the city. Just start with something, come up with something that you can do to serve for one day, but then have a plan already in place. So know what that next step is going to be, so that you can just keep building on that, because people are going to show up and they're going to serve once. What's going to happen is they're going to want to do it again. And that's the joy of being the church, is we get to continue to give people the opportunity to do it again, do it again. We give every Sunday, we worship every Sunday, we serve every day, do it again. So whatever the thought is, just make it something that you can build on and have fun with it, and people are going to follow you, and they're going to be blessed because they're serving, and people are going to be blessed because they've been served. So
it's beautiful. I love how you guys both have a heart to make it an experience for both sides of the spectrum. So the people serving, the people being served, it's like an experience that we get to architect. We architect this atmosphere, and then we just invite God's presence in, and then cities change from left and right, inside out. It's beautiful. So I seriously am probably going to watch this back and take notes, because I've been jotting some things down, but you guys are seriously some of my heroes, and even more so after today than ever. I just thank y'all so much for your time. And if it's okay, if you guys want to shout out real quick how people can maybe get in touch with you or your team if they have questions about specific things that you've talked about today, whether it's social media or email, just go ahead and shout that out.
At Chris Van B on social media platforms, or you can just go to Centerpoint.Church and find all the info there.
Cool.
RockCityChurch.tv, and you can email Chad Fisher at RockCityChurch.tv. My social media plugs are all a little different, so I'll just leave it with that. I think
There's many Chad Fishers, not Chad Fisher 77.
I think I'm Steve Fisher online on Twitter, but no, RockCityChurch.tv, and we have pretty much everything that we do on there. So we'd love to.
And if you email me, as a hobby?
No.
Oh no. Man, I was hoping you did.
But I did really luck out with that. That was one that I did that in one take, and I had no idea how it was going to work with the music. And when I said the last word and the music just ended, it was like this aha Holy Spirit moment. We just left it with that. So it was never going to do that again. But
I had goosebumps. It was incredible. That's awesome. Okay, I'm going to do a Snapchat from our serve day real quick. So you guys just say, I don't know, just say serve day 16 or something. I don't know. Okay.
We can do that.
Wait. I'm still learning Snapchat.
I don't even know what Snapchat is.
I've got it.
You don't know Snapchat? Oh,
no, we got to get with it, man.
Just be like,
go some spoken word on me. Like, try it. You got 10 seconds. 3, 2, 1.
Stop it. What are we supposed to say?
Serve day 2016.
Make sure you serve day
2016.
Wait, 10 seconds ran out.
That's because we were struggling.
You want to try take 2?
Can you delete a snap?
Yeah.
No, it's posted. It's gone.
Okay, we'll do it again.
Ready?
Yeah.
Okay, go.
Make sure you serve day 2016.
Wait, it froze. Okay, go. Now.
Make sure you serve day
2016.
Amen.
There we go. That's all you got.
Okay.
That was my first Snapchat.
Yeah.
Never.
First Snapchat. Well, you had 2, so.
Oh,
okay.
Lord.
I've got an account, but.
Is that the ugly little yellow thing that's just stupid?
Yes. It's kind of aggravating, but then
it's
fun if you do like the face swap. I should have done face swap on you guys. Whatever. Okay. Well, thank y'all so much.
If you did face swap, that means I get hair for like a moment.
Yeah, man.
True.
Snap.
Yeah.
And Chad's got sexy hair. He does. It's good looking hair.
I'll tell you about it someday.
Good looking head hair.
Y'all are crazy. Y'all are crazy. All right, I'm going to go ahead and stop our broadcast. So goodbye, world. Thank you for tuning in. We'll be on Monday, 3 p.m. Central with Pastor Scott Wilmore and Andy Heiss. It's going to be awesome. Real manly brew. So see y'all later. Bye.